Welcome travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is an updated version of the 100% crit minion build for melee Necromancer, in which we'll be using all melee minions, and they'll be doing a lot of damage. Now the reason for this update is, of course, we have had a new patch come out, but people wanted a version of it with Rip Blood, and we changed a couple of items around a little bit, and the buff that Rip Blood gives your minions, now that you're using the skill tree associated with it with the weapon that you're using, gives them 30% more damage and 30% more attack speed, which means they're going to attack faster, they're going to hit 30% harder, and now that you're actually hitting your minions with Rip Blood, you're actually getting a lot of ward back. You get about 500 ward every time that it goes off every 3 seconds, which is going to allow you to stack more ward and make it even easier to face tank all of the bosses. As you can see in the gameplay right now, this build is a little OP. It's probably going to get nerfed a little bit because you literally can stand and face tank all bosses and kill them within seconds. So let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, I'm running Rip Blood, Dreadshade, Summon Skeleton Mage, Summon Skeleton, and Harvest. Now I put out Infernal Shade for Rip Blood for a few reasons. One, Infernal Shade is kind of bugged and it can get unlimited damage, and a lot of people think this build, since it has Infernal Shade on its bar, means that it's using it as its way of getting the damage. So we're going to go ahead and take it off because we weren't even using it in the last build at all anyways. In this one we'll be using Rip Blood. Now your weapon will automatically cast Rip Blood 5 times every 3 seconds, which means you don't even have to cast it, which is going to allow you to put Transplant or some other skill on your bar. If you want to summon a golem, you can. Whatever it will be, it won't be specialized, but you don't have to put Rip Blood on your bar. We're going to put Transplant in this build, but you could do a golem or something unspec'd and give yourself a little bit either more damage or a movement skill to move. Now the way I have this spec'd, it's going to give us 500 ward every time that we use it because of how much int we have and how many minions that it's going to hit. It's also going to buff your minions, and of course it's going to give you all of that back as ward, not health, so that you can stack it with all the ward you already have. Now we have 1 point in Eviscerate, 1 point in Splatter, 2 points in Crimson Flood, 1 point in Blood Infusion. So when you cast Rip Blood, or when you hit with your weapon and then Rip Blood is cast, it hits your minions with the Splatter, which is going to give Blood Infusion to your minions for 4 seconds. Now because your weapon can proc it every 3 seconds, that means you can technically have 100% uptime of this buff. Now it says increases their damage by 30%, but it's actually a more modifier. We tested this and it does give you 30% more damage. So if you're doing 2k crits, you're now going to be critting for about 2.6, 2.7k. It's going to definitely boost their damage by quite a bit. You can see taking the monsters down, the bosses down, much faster in the gameplay on this one than we were in the last video. Then we have 3 points in Infused Frenzy, so they have 30% more attack speed. 1 point in Hemophagy, so that they have a little bit more physical leech. 2 points in Arcane Absorption, 1 point in Rip Spirit, 1 point in Arcane Fortress. This means that instead of Rip Blood granting you health, it's now going to grant you ward. 1 point in Hemomancer, 4 points in Quenching, so this way you'll get more ward. 1 point in Hematology, so that you get more ward per point of intelligence, 5% more. And 1 point in Marrow Drinker, so that Rip Blood will only target your minions, but you get 100% more ward. Now yes, all of these say health, but again we're converting all of that health to ward, so all of those are going to actually give you more ward. Then for Dreadshade, we have this set up the exact same way as the other build. 3 points in Spectral Presence, 3 points in Dying Coven, 1 point in Blind Fury, 3 points in Lingering Doom, 1 point in Pernicious Pact, 1 point in Egoism, 2 points in Grim Fate, 1 point in Symbolic Operation, 3 points in Flesh Harvest, 1 point in Dread Plague, and 1 point in Marty Doom. For Summon Skeleton Mage, we're once again running the Death Knights. We have 5 points in Cellar Mortis, so they have a huge amount of base crit chance, and they'll have some added move speed. 3 points in Grey Merchant, so they have higher critical strike multiplier. They also gain a percentage of their maximum health on every crit they do, which will be 100 of the time, meaning that every attack they do grants them 15% of their maximum health back, making them very, very hard to kill unless they are either one-shot or they have had so many Dread Shades put on them that they're reducing their health very, very quickly, and there's no targets to attack. 1 point in Order of Death to increase the maximum number of skeleton mages we can have by another 1. 1 point in Death Knights. This removes all other skeleton mage types and now gives you Death Knights, which are melee beast. We have 5 points in Flaming Attacks to give them 20 added fire damage, 2 points in Leech Life for some leech for them, 2 points in Splinter Dominion so they have a higher or larger melee area of effect, and 1 point in Agronautic Speed so they have some more attack speed. Then for Summon Skeleton, we have this set up for the warriors. 5 points in Sweeping Strike so they have a much larger area of attack. They also have more damage. 3 points in Unholy Rage for more attack speed and move speed. 1 point in Marrow Walkers for an additional skeleton. 3 points in Necrotic Conviction, which will give your warriors more maximum health. 1 point in Hollow Walkers for again another maximum skeleton. 1 point in Shambling Steel, which will remove archers so that you will only have warriors at this point. 1 point in Armor so they can now cast Bone Armor, reducing the damage they take by 40%. 2 points in Impatient to reduce the cooldown and increase the duration of Bone Armor so that they now have Bone Armor permanently uptime. 2 points in Unbound Necromancy for some crit chance. This is to unlock the 1 point in Gravewalkers for another additional maximum skeleton. And then we have Harvest. For Harvest, last time we were spec'd into the Mind Harvest, but I had already taken the points out of Cursing and having your minions do Mark of Death, so we unspec'd from that. We now have 3 points in Great Scythe, 3 points in Spectral Wheatstone, 1 point in Harrowing Blade, 2 points in Finality, 5 points in Skull Shards, 1 point in Undead Harvest, and 5 points in Legion of the Lich. Now because they get their bonuses for this crit chance whenever you do a critical strike with Harvest, you want to have as close to a 100% critical strike as possible. So we do have the 3 points in the Spectral Wheatstone, but I did try 1 point in Iron's Mouth because it gives you 10% base crit, but costs 10 health to use. Yes, that is flat 10 health, which I thought wouldn't be a big deal because we are running low life, so the less life we have, it's actually better for us. Be aware, this can kill you. It does not take a percentage of your current health. It actually takes a flat 10 health, and if you don't have 10 health, if you have, say, anywhere from 1 to 9 health, it will not stop you from using the skill. You actually just commit suicide, so be aware of that. For passives, I have 20 points in the Acolyte base class, with 7 points in Blood Aura, 5 points in Dark Rituals, and 8 points in Forbidden Knowledge. 11 points in the Lich, with 8 points in Crippling Insight, 2 points in Survival of the Cruel, and 1 point in Hollow Lich. Very important that you get this node because you do not want to leech health. You want to give it all as increased damage, because if you leech any health, you actually do a decent amount of damage with this build when you're using Harvest, and you will fill your life up, and then you won't have the ward generation, and that will lead you to an early death. And then 80 points in the Necromancer, our mastered class, with 8 points in Risen Army, 3 points in Cursed Blood, 1 point in Blood Armor, 5 points in Mortal Tether, 4 points in Aegis Fall, 1 point in Unbound Necromancy, 8 points in Unearthed Arms, 4 points in Tyrant, 2 points in Tyrant's Legion, 10 points in Moonlight Prior, 5 points in Frantic Summons, 5 points in River of Bones, 8 points in Heresy, 5 points in Blades of the Forlorn, 10 points in Rite of Undeath, and 1 point in Disciples of Necromancy. Yes, I did change some points around. We no longer have points in Veins of Malice. Most of them went into the Unearthed Arms for more flat physical damage. And then for items and idols, for the idols we again have some increased health. It's all the same idols that we had on the last build. Elemental Resist, some duplexes, and then make sure you have at least 1 or 2 idols that have the Skeleton Critical Strike and the Skeleton Mage Critical Strike chance, so that they have a higher base critical strike chance. Even without that, you're still going to crit a lot. These are going to guarantee that you have that 100% crit against bosses. And then we switched up one item on the build, and that one item is that we got rid of the hollow finger, and instead we ran a second Ribbons of Blood, so you will have one less maximum skeleton. However, you get 9% increased health, your minions have more melee, health, leech, and hit. This definitely increases their survivability, their leech rate is higher, this gives them more flat minion damage, which is just great. So, for all the uniques, we have 2 of these Ribbons of Blood. We're wearing the Eulogy of Blood. This gives you the melee cold damage. This gives the minions melee cold damage. You have a 100% chance to bleed on hit. You have increased bleed duration. And then there's a 37% chance to cast Rip Blood at 5 nearby enemies on melee hit with a 3-second cooldown. As long as you're doing hits, you attack fast enough, you're going to get that almost as soon as the cooldown is up. And this gives you extra health gained from that Rip Blood, in this case Ward as well. We have the Inzanguius because we are running a low life build, so we have the good old combo of Inzanguius plus the last steps of the living. And then we have the Death Rattle for that minion critical strike multiplier, which is huge. Then for our crafted items, all the same ones as the other build, we have the Burial Mask, which comes with intelligence, flat minion health regen, flat health, and increased health. And remember, these are low tier, so you get more health, which will give you more ward, and you'll have even more survivability. Not that you need it, this one can actually push pretty well in the arena, and again, you can face tank all, even the empowered, all of the bosses in the game. Then for the Unread Scroll, this is for the intelligence. We don't care about the spell critical strike chance, but the more intelligence you can get, the better. It helps with your ward retention, and it gives your minions more damage and more life. On it we have minion health, minion dodge rating, elemental resist, and increased minion damage. For the belt, we have a bronze belt with minion health regen, minion damage, increased health, and hybrid health. We have the Crusader gauntlets for that void resistance with int, minion damage, hybrid health, and flat health. And then we have the Putrid Souls with intelligence, minion health regen, flat health, and physical resistance. For the character sheet, as you can see, not resistances, yes, we have quite a bit. Only fire is capped, some of the rest we have about 20 to 30% missing on them. We only have 10% armor, and yet we can still face tank Lagon. We can still face tank all of the bosses. When I say Lagon, I mean the beam. You can literally just sit there and attack and not even worry about moving out of the beam. Why is that? It's because once you have minions and you have Dreadshade, you get a huge amount of armor boost, and you have so much ward generation that you can just out tank the damage. In this case, we'll go ahead and get Dreadshade going. And with Dreadshade on this, you can see we instantly jump up to 34% armor. And then, of course, as our minion skeleton in this case loses health, we will continue to get more bonus to our armor. And it's going to take a while for that to happen. You also notice that once we're in Dreadshade, we got a huge bonus to all of our damages. We're sitting at almost 1,000% of all of our damages. So you do a decent amount of damage. And then, again, as we start cooking this guy and we get his health to start falling, you'll see that the armor is jumping up to 35%, and as you get more and more stacks, it's just going to continue to climb. And then for the damages, so let's go ahead and summon all of our guys just to give you a brief example. So what I do is I have Dreadshade on AutoCast, and everything else I'll use. You don't have to put Rip Blood on your skill bar. Your weapon will auto-proc it. It will use the skill tree even without it being on your skill bar. You're going to summon all of them. You'll have up to 5 mages. You'll have 10 skeletons. And then all I do is harvest. And if I want to transplant for movement, you can just transplant, continue on. And then for damage, as you can see here, they are hitting like a truck. And we'll just give them that nice. See, when you have proc, it gives them more attack speed and more damage. And it just auto targets. You can see they're hitting from anywhere. Oh, Jesus. I have no idea. Anywhere from 15k to like 30k damage in there. And as you saw with the bosses, and as I'll play some more gameplay for you, they just absolutely annihilate things. And if you watch my ward, every time we proc, we go from about 5,500 to 6,100 right there. So we got about 700 ward from that one proc of Rip Blood. So you can see how much ward that gives you, which is a huge amount. Alright, let's go ahead and get into some more gameplay.